Alright, how are we doing, everyone? Welcome back. So, I've got a bit of bad news for you. I literally just got out of the shower and I saw on my phone a notification about some new kind of speed camera, which we're going to kind of discuss a little bit today, and I'm going to give you my reaction to this new, well, they call it technology, but it's not new technology. The governments have just decided to implement it. But basically, it is an anti-braking camera, is what it's called, or a cascading speed camera, is what they've called it. And I mean, I'm going to try and be devil's advocate, but a lot of you are already going to know that this kind of stuff doesn't fly with me. This is disgusting, and it's just another way that local councils, governments are going to be able to punish motorists just that little bit more. Alright, so let's kind of show you what I'm talking about here. New anti-braking camera could be rolled out across the UK to slap drivers with more fines. Now, I don't know if this article is pro or against these kinds of things. I don't know. It doesn't really say. There is a spokesperson for some kind of company, a random kind of company, which has well, I don't know. It's got some quotes of this guy in it, but anti-braking. So what this article is describing is that these new cameras, I mean, I don't know if this is what they look like or not, but these cameras will detect when a driver tries to brake suddenly to fall within the speed limit, so to speak. Now, it doesn't go into too much detail about the harshness of the detection, whether or not it works within, how much speed you've decreased. I don't know. It doesn't really say, and there's not a lot of information online about how these cameras actually work, because they wouldn't be so bad if you were doing, say, 5 to 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, and you saw one of these and you decided to slow down to put yourself within the speed limit, or whether or not even that is, they're not going to accept. Even they'll slap you with a fine and points even in that scenario, which I think is what is going to happen. Well, I'll go into the reasons a little bit later, and this is totally kind of ad hoc. I've not scripted anything or what have you, but I mean, my first thought when it comes to these kinds of things is that it's not going to catch the people that they think it's going to catch. So everyone automatically thinks that these kinds of devices are going to catch people that are doing tens of miles an hour over the speed limit, and then they decide to brake really hard to try and get themselves within the speed limit. That isn't actually what these cameras are targeting, believe it or not. I know some people believe that, like, right, no. What these things are going to do is that they are going to catch people like me who ride over the speed limit very regularly. Not ridiculously over the speed limit. I mean, I'm just doing the speed of the road. I'm doing the speed that I feel comfortable. I'm doing the speed that I think is safest for me, and I'm concentrating on the road. I'm not exactly looking at my speedo every 3 bloody seconds to check what speed I'm doing. I'm concentrating, as I should be, on the road, right? But it's going to impact people like me, and probably you as well, because the vast majority of drivers and motorcyclists in the UK will come under this bracket, will come under this group of people where you're doing a few miles an hour over the speed limit, let's say up to 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, right? And then you try slowing down to get back into the speed limit, which, I mean, that's what speed cameras are supposed to do, right? You get anyone that believes in speed cameras, they will say to you they're supposed to be a deterrence. They're supposed to get you slowing down, right? That's exactly what they do. But this now takes the piss out of the whole idea that speed cameras are supposed to be some kind of deterrence, because you haven't got a chance. If you're doing 10 miles an hour over the speed limit and you brake and it detects that you've slowed down enough to put yourself back within the speed limit, that's not a deterrence, that's taking advantage, because all of a sudden you've been slapped with a fine despite the fact that you saw the camera, you acknowledged that it was there. Then at that point is when you decide to look at your speedo, and then you go, oh, I'm doing over the speed limit, I should slow down. Right? That's how the whole deterrence idea is supposed to work, but this just throws it back into everyone's face. Right? You could before make a reasonable argument about traditional speed cameras and why they need to be used, because they act as a deterrent, right? It's like anyone. You look for a speed camera van, you look for one of those standing speed cameras, the ones that are fixed, and you start slowing down, right? That's what they're supposed to do. That's the impact they're supposed to have. But anyway, so this my initial reaction to this is just that this is going to be taking more advantage of motorists who are simply going about their everyday trip, right? There's nothing different about what this person does on a day in, day out basis, yet now potentially they could be getting slapped with more fines. Now, this is just a speculation at this point about this in the UK. However, these new devices apparently have been tested in Spain and in 2020, and they've now been rolled out across the whole country. Now, for those of you that have not driven in Spain before, I have a few times. They are very, very, what's the word, harsh when it comes to the whole speeding thing. And I think one of the reasons why is because the country is so massive. Spain is so huge. The roads are just straight. The motorways are just straight. So it's really easy to just bomb it down the highways, down the motorways, because there's nothing in your way. And Spain's one of those countries where they absolutely love to slap on lower speed limits for bends that you could quite easily do 80 miles an hour around, which in Spain is the national speed limit is 80 miles an hour, 120 kilometers an hour. You could easily go around one of these bends, but they insist that you do 100 kilometers an hour, for example, which is closer to 70 miles an hour, I believe, or maybe 60 miles an hour. Yeah, it's 62, isn't it? I think 100 kilometers an hour is 62 miles an hour. But they will insist that you slow yourself down to go around these bends, and then they speed up again. And they also love doing this thing where you are doing the national speed limit, and this is more on rural roads, this kind of thing happens, but you're doing the national speed limit, then you're coming up towards some kind of village somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and then they will change the speed limit, and then literally within 100 yards they will lower the speed limit again. And then, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so the thing is, Spain does have a driver problem, alright? I'm not trying to be rude or anything like that, alright? I'm half Spanish myself. But the way how people drive in Spain is Mediterranean, shall we say. It's very similar to what you see in Italy and France. They drive rather recklessly in those countries. I think a lot of it is because of the way how the roads are designed, because they're just so straight, a lot of them. But anyway, I'm trying to find a way to justify these things being rolled out in Spain, and I'm struggling. But okay, so anyway, they've rolled out these things in Spain, and it's successful. They say, oh, it's wonderful, it's brilliant that they work, so they roll them out everywhere. I don't know if it's across the whole country, but because like I mentioned, Spain is so massive that maybe they're not going to be able to cover the whole of the country. But they've had like radar speed cameras for a while, probably 20 years now. They've had some kind of radar speed cameras on the Spanish mainland. So it's been something that I think they've been looking to do for a very long time. But it still kind of stinks when you think about the way how the roads are designed here in the UK and how they're not very straight most of the time. They're very rural, they're very bendy, windy. Trying to find a straight road in the UK is very, very difficult. And even motorways here in the UK, motorways are the straightest roads that we've got, but they're not as straight as some of the roads that you find in Europe. Anyway, so this article is saying oftentimes when drivers are faced with a speed camera, they will brake suddenly before the camera to abide by the rules and avoid getting snapped. Of course, that's what speed cameras are supposed to do. Once a person has driven past the speed camera, they may put their foot down and start to accelerate again, potentially going over the limit. Alright, now I'm not speaking for every driver, motorcyclist in the country, but I'm pretty sure that that is what most people do. Not because they're necessarily doing it deliberately, they're doing it because there's no reason to slow down. If you've got a fairly straight piece of road, you're naturally going to speed up a little bit. I don't know. Again, it's not over the top speeding. It is 3, 4, 5, 10 maybe mile an hour over the speed limit. That's it, right? And some people will say like, oh, you think you can control your speed at 1 mile an hour over the speed limit? Well, you can't. I think you find I can. I do it every single day, and it's not been a problem. Right? If you're doing 20, 30 mile an hour over the speed limit, even over 10 mile an hour over a speed limit, then at that point you can kind of think to yourself, well, okay, yeah, they're taking the piss, right? But again, it's all about trying to be reasonable with this stuff. And I mentioned this kind of before in previous videos where we've been out and about talking about these kinds of speeding issues and things like that. Again, the thing that most people don't get is that the targets are people like myself who feel like it's safe to go a little bit over the speed limit in most situations because there is no traffic in front of me, there are no pedestrians, the road is straight, I can see the road for miles and miles on end, and I don't think that is unreasonable. But this is, again, falling into that same kind of argument that any kind of speeding whatsoever is unreasonable. And it's like we all get treated like axe murderers and rapists and people that we're not. We're just normal people. We're doing our everyday thing and we're just getting on with our lives, right? Maybe enjoying the vehicle we're driving, the vehicle we're riding every once in a while. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that. But apparently, according to some people, there is. Anyway, so it says a bit further down that this device aims to prevent that from happening. This is talking about the whole slowing down to get within the speed limit when you see a camera. This device aims to prevent that from happening and penalise speeding drivers who cause chaos on the roads by changing speeds in a short space of time. Well, I wonder why that's happening. Because of the speed cameras. Anyway, experts are now calling for the device to be introduced on UK roads to make sure all drivers take responsibility for driving at the correct speed. Recent data from the Department of Transport found that 1 in 4 fatal collisions happen as a result of speeding on UK roads. Now, I think this article is pushing towards pro, but they're kind of being a bit wishy-washy about it. Because this statement here is not very specific. And that's the biggest issue that I find with a lot of news articles when they come out with this kind of stuff, is that they will say something that sounds like it is in favour of these new types of cameras and what have you, but they will say it in a way that won't piss off a load of people. But the problem is, recent data, when? What data? Is this data spanning over 20 years? Is this data spanning over a few months? From the Department of Transport. I'm assuming this is the UK Department of Transport. 1 in 4 fatal collisions What is 1 in 4? 25%. Why are they saying 1 in 4? What, you know, right? They could give you some solid numbers here. They could say that this was the amount of collisions that happened as a result of speeding. This is the amount of collisions that cause fatalities, and this was the cause of the fatalities, right? They're not being specific in any way, shape, or form. But it says underneath it says based on these figures, more than 2,500 people are seriously injured every year because of excessive speeds. Oh, so now they've changed their tune a little bit here. Instead of the whole fatal collision argument, now it's people that are seriously injured. Well, are people that get rear-ended seriously injured? Are the people who claim that they get whiplash seriously injured? Where are they getting this information from? Are they getting it from insurance companies? Are they getting it from the Department of Transport? And it says based on these figures. Based on these figures. So this is not exact. This is not correct. Again, it's a narrative. It's propaganda, right? This stuff, you got to read this stuff with such a massive pinch of salt and pepper, because again, they're trying to write an article that suits a certain audience, that suits a certain group of people that will agree with this stuff, all because they see these words that they understand, the words that they agree with, but they're not actually looking in between the lines, right? Excessive speeds. Okay, I want to know, what are excessive speeds? Are they 1 mile an hour over the speed limit? Are they 10 mile an hour over the speed limit? Are they 20 mile an hour over the speed limit? I want to know these things, because the one thing that, again, a lot of people don't want to talk about is the so-called reasonable speeding thing, right? If I do 2 or 3, 4, 10 mile an hour over the speed limit in a particular scenario, straight road where there's nothing around, the danger is to myself. I'm making that choice. The danger is to myself, no one else around me, right? I'm allowed to make that choice. I should be allowed to make that choice. But according to a lot of these people, I'm not allowed to make that choice. I'm not allowed to have the freedom to make my own judgment when it comes to my driving and my riding safety, right? It's a choice, okay? I don't buy this nonsense. It's all wishy-washy information that makes you think that the issue is more of a problem than it actually is. I have no doubt whatsoever that people are killed every year in every country in the world as a result of someone, or a minority of people, being stupid and going speeds that they simply can't control, right? I have no doubt that that is the case. And I mean, yeah, these kinds of things might help, but again, you're kind of avoiding the issue here. You're not targeting the people that are being stupid. You're targeting people like me, who are being sensible, who are being reasonable. You're targeting me by doing this. Right, so this person here, Gary Dejiva? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Founder of Road Angel. And I had a look at this company. Alright, so this guy here is the founder of, what was it called? Road Angel. Road Angel, which apparently are a company that work on things like dash cams, and they work on certain car tech. I don't know. These aren't this company. Well, looking at what I found, this company isn't the company responsible for designing these new cameras. That's actually this company. DGT, the General Director of Traffic, which apparently is the Department of Transport in Spain. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But I just want you to keep this picture in mind. All right, this is a Ferrari 458 Spider, apparently. Okay, so just keep that in mind. This car here. All right, so he's a very, very rich man. All right, let's go back to full screen here so you can see a bit better. So this guy warned that drivers in the UK could soon see the new anti-braking systems used across the nation to control speeding. He said, if introduced, these devices will catch and penalise more speeding motorists, encouraging more drivers to stick to the speed limits and improve road safety. These shocking statistics alone should encourage motorists to think twice before speeding, yet it is safe to say that the new technology will penalise even more motorists who are driving in excess of the legal limit, therefore helping keep UK roads safer for all users. This is coming from a bloke who drives this car. Yeah. Do you really think he sticks to speed limits? Really? Do you in a car like that, do you really think this guy sticks to speed limits? I don't think so. And you'd be naive to think that this bloke in a car like that sticks to speed limits, alright? It's obvious, right? You don't buy a car like that to do the speed limit in. Why don't you just buy a Toyota Yaris? Right, good car, or a Honda Jazz. Again, good car. But those are the cars that you use to, what's the word, to plod around town and go the speed limit, you know, so-called boring cars, even though they're very reliable cars. Boring cars. This is not a boring car. In fact, actually, looking at that icon there, that's a Lambo. It says in this kind of like profiling here, Ferrari 458 Spider that he bought. Oh, that he bought for his brother on his 40th birthday. All right, so it's not this car, but it doesn't matter. All right, this is a Lambo that he's driving. These are the kinds of cars that he drives. He's a rich man. Okay. So yeah, I find it funny how someone like that is supposedly pro these kinds of cameras. Anyway. The anti-braking cameras have been trialled in Spain before the pandemic and were found to be successful. This technology, which has been branded as Cascading, can detect speeds over considerable distances with a mobile speed camera, with a mobile scanner placed after a fixed radar. Any new drivers caught speeding within 2 years passing their test could get their license revoked if they build up 6 or more points. And then Gary says again, by capturing drivers who slam on the brakes before passing the speed. Before passing the fixed speed camera, as well as using technology to apprehend motorists who speed up again after the camera, the new radar devices will be able to penalise many more motorists than current systems. He says, although the fight goes on to reduce, I don't know what that word is. I think it's supposed to say incidences of speeding on UK roads and accidents resulting from excess speed, we believe introducing this new technology to the UK will keep UK roads safer. Alright, blah blah blah, whatever, bollocks. Okay, so this person, I'm pretty sure, is writing in this article simply to promote their business. Because the first line says, Gary DeGiver, founder of Road Angel, the very first thing that the way how they introduce him, look, all right, very first line right there. Okay, he's not mentioned in the article before that. All right, okay. I mean, I've kept you guys here for a little while now, so I'll try and wrap this up. But again, there's a fine line between introducing something that is fair and safe for everyone and introducing something that just totally takes advantage of road users. Okay, and this will apply to a lot of people. I'm not even joking. All right, even people who think that they stick to the speed limits every single day will get caught by these things. It's a momentary lapse of judgment. They're not thinking about the speed they're doing because guess what? They're focusing on the road, and you should be. The only thing that this will do is take people's eyes off the road again, every single day. I don't know about you, but that is more dangerous than keeping eyes on the road going a little bit over the speed limit. Alright? I will quote what a police officer said to me when I got pulled over speeding about 2010, something like that, so about 13 years ago, 14 years ago. Alright? He said to me, everybody speeds. It's just whether or not you get caught. And this came from a police officer. right? Not any old police officer. A police officer in an unmarked car. Of all bloody things, an unmarked car. Now you think that you've got to see the speed camera to get caught. No, you don't. There's no laws. There's nothing to say that a camera needs to be on show to catch you, right? Some people think it's entrapment. It's not. Okay, they're allowed to do that. But it still leaves a bit of a sour taste in your mouth when the police officer that catches you says that everyone speeds, it's just whether or not you get caught, you know? And because police officers speed all the time, right? When they're not on duty, when they're not at their job, when they're just doing their outside of work stuff, they're going to the shops, they're picking up their kids from school, they are speeding everywhere, right? And these are supposed to be people that enforce these rules, that enforce the law, all right? I know it's difficult because I know that a lot of police officers believe in the law. That's why they became police officers, because they want to be able to be enforcers of the law. They want to be just dread, blah, 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 right? So it gives them a bad rap. But a lot of them are just regular people, right? They're regular guys, regular girls, just doing a job. And they all do the same stuff that all of us lot do, right? There are some people out there, I'm not going to give any percentages or any numbers, but there are some people out there that will not be confident or competent enough to go at any sorts of speeds, maybe not even up to the speed limit. There's nothing wrong with that. But then there are going to be people like me who are more confident, who are more assertive, who are more capable, who are more competent. I mean, I'm saying that, all right, but my dad was a police officer, all right? I drive the same way he does. Right, I have the same attitude to the road as he does. He taught me how to drive in a lot of ways, right? He didn't teach me how to ride a motorcycle because he didn't have a license. I taught myself. But when it came to getting my driving test done and everything, he took me out on a lot of drives and he showed me how to drive properly, how to drive assertively, how to drive confidently, how to drive competently. He showed me how to do these things. So my driving behavior is very much been influenced by him. And he does all the same things I do. He speeds everywhere. He is in a rush. He's late to things. That doesn't stop him from speeding. He's a retired police officer, yes, but if anything, he's gotten slower as he's gotten older. Right? Okay? I'm being serious. Right? So this isn't... And he was a... I should probably mention as well, he was a trained... kind of advanced driving techniques and things for the police, specifically for the police as what do they call them? Not interceptors are the United States version, aren't they? But you know what I mean. The people who drive the cars, right? That go on the chases, that drive the cars with the blues and what have you, right? So it's similar to like paramedics do. So he knows what he's talking about, and he was a police officer for 30 years, doing that same job for 30 years. All right. So no one's going to tell me that I'm not doing what's right on our roads, all right? Especially when I apply a lot of that logic from him to the way how I drive and the way how I ride, all right? Despite all that, apparently there's no room for any kind of so-called speeding for people like me. No room whatsoever. Even though I'm totally in control of the vehicle, 90 to 100% of the time, I make mistakes like everybody else does. All right, the vast majority of them, if not all of them, are not as a result of me speeding. They're as a result of some other stupid mistake, a lapse in concentration, what have you. All right, because that's the thing. That the biggest issue with a lot of this is that you can attribute 100% of this stuff to speeding in one way or another, right? It just in one. That's what I mean. So it really does depend on who you're talking to about how much impact the speed of a vehicle is doing, because it's all relative. It's all relative to not the speed of the well, it's not relative to the speed limit. It's relative to the speed of the road. It's relative to what's going on around you, right? And I mean, after the fact, how on earth are you going to know how far someone was going after an accident has been caused? After a crash has been caused, after someone's died, how are you going to tell what speed they were doing? Unless they're caught on a camera, right? Even witnesses, you get a witness that say, oh, he was bombing it down there 100 mile an hour. They haven't got a clue. You can't judge the speed of a car just by looking at it, right? You can if it's going 30 or whether it's going 100 mile an hour, but you can't judge it if it's going between 30 and 35. If it's going between 30 and 40, you can't. All right? You can't eyeball it and know it's going over the speed limit, all right? So, I mean, to be fair, that's why witnesses aren't very reliable in court, because you can't rely on the information they're giving. It's first-hand accounts of a perception of someone, or the perspective of a particular person, and they're never reliable. All right. So anyway, I'm a little bit dubious about all this stuff, and I think it's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely stupid, and of course, we've had quite a bad week this week because in Wales they've introduced the whole 20 mile an hour thing now. But it all kind of all fits together, doesn't it? All this stuff, it all comes together, and it's all just a way of punishing motorists. All right. The thing is, I've kind of said this before as well, and this will be my final thing, I swear, that introducing 20 mile an hour limits in suburban areas, in urban areas, whatever, right? Enforce whatever speed limits you want in urban areas, okay? There's more room for error. There's less room for error, less room for mistakes to be made, and I bet you, because a lot of people live in cities, urban environments, that the vast majority of these fatalities that happen as a result of speeding happen in and around cities. All right? In and around cities. I think that's fairly obvious. Okay, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But what I would like to see is a little bit of give and take here. So, like for example, if you roll out a 20 mile an hour limit in reasonable areas, all right, that should have a 20 mile an hour limit, and I have my skepticism behind 20 mile an hour limits already, which I've done a video about years ago. I might have to do another one, but maybe give something back and allow us to do a little bit more on the motorway or on highways. Let us do a little bit more. Let us do 80 mile an hour. Let us do 85 mile an hour on these roads. Or better yet, maybe even de-restrict motorways. Give us an autobahn, like they do in Germany, right? So it would be nice if there was a little bit of give and take with this stuff, but it's not. It's just greedy. Give me money. Motorists. Oh, there's more motorists on the road. More targets to suck more money out of people. I don't know. Because I used to be kind of like 50-50 with the whole kind of speed camera thing, where you get 50% of people that would be like, oh, it's just a cash cow, it's just a way of generating more money. Then you get the other 50 people that will say, well, no, it's supposed to be a deterrent, right? Well, things like this happen, and then it just pushes you in the opposite direction, the direction that you don't really want to go. You want to believe that this stuff is helping, but it's not. It's just targeting people. It's targeting a very specific group of people. Me. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for watching this one. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, because this is a very spicy topic. I know this is going to get a lot of debate, and share this, all right? Because too much of this stuff just flies under the radar and we don't even know it's happening, and then all of a sudden you've got people left, right and center complaining about fines that they've got, despite the fact that they slowed down before a bloody speed camera, right? Things like this shouldn't be happening, and I'll reiterate, this is not being rolled out yet, all right? This is speculation based off of a trial that happened in another country, in Spain, where these machines have now been rolled out a little more widespread. All right, but yeah, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Leave a like, get subscribed if you want to see more stuff like this, more of this kind of debate style content, and we'll catch you all in the next video. Have a good one. Take care. Ride safe.